Cloud computing is leading the digital transformation in today's IT sector. The number of apps moving on cloud is insane. One of the biggest players in the cloud computing industry is Microsoft Azure. Microsoft Azure's App Service provides you the opportunity to create, develop, and deploy your apps on the cloud. Microsoft's App Service is a platform as a service offering from Microsoft. It is used to host web applications, REST APIs, and backend services for mobile applications. We'll explore these in more details in our video today. But before we begin, please subscribe to our channel and hit that bell icon. So here is the agenda for this video. We'll start with discussing various cloud types. We'll then understand the various types of cloud services that are available out there, and then understand what is Azure App Service. We'll also get an in-depth understanding of what is Azure's App Service plans.
Okay, so the first topic or the first service what we are picking from Azure 204 course is Azure App Service. So before we actually dig into Azure App Service, so let's first understand some basics of terminology. Just talk about what is your understanding of a public cloud, private cloud, and hybrid cloud. These are the three cloud types that is available today. So public clouds are nothing but your Azure, Amazon, or AWS or Google Cloud. So it's basically the service provider whose services you can use from the internet. So that is what a public cloud is. And private cloud is what? Is the cloud which is maintained and operated by a private entity. So maybe a bank which wants to create their own set of infrastructure and which they will give it to you as a their set of developers who can use it. So that's basically private cloud. And hybrid cloud. Hybrid cloud is a combination of both public cloud and private cloud. So now we just move to what are the different types of cloud. Before that, what is actually cloud computing is, right? So if I put it into my words, so I would say is like, let's first try to draw an analogy. So uh, let's say I'm building a web application in on-premise, right? So if I'm building a web application in on-premise, so what are the things that is needed to make it as a production-ready web application? So I need certain kind of servers where I can host my web application, and some storage and databases where I can store the data, and some networking around it, by which my application servers or the database servers can talk to each other. I can horizontal scale my servers to make it highly available. And so basically, it's more is a scalable system. Apart from that, so it's now my application is ready. So I have servers, storage, databases, networking. Apart from that, I may need some kind of debugging function or some kind of analytics or intelligence on top of it, so that I can build reports from my system. I can access to my logs and give it to a machine learning model, so that my model will be smart enough to give me suggestions. Or let's say I am building a service for a spa organization, or for a spa business. I'm building a service and I have access to, let's say, 20,000 businesses across the world. Now a new service is getting onboarded. Now from my experience or from the data what we have, I know for giving a spa, there is an average price on the location or India is, let's say, 300 INR. So I can suggest them like, this is the price range what other businesses are offering. So those kind of those kind of things you can build around your application. That is how our on-premise work. Now, what is cloud computing? So cloud computing, what it says is, so delivery of all these computing services. So what we talked about, right? We talked about server, storage, database, networking, software, analytics, intelligence, and all these things, right? So Amazon, Microsoft, Google, IBM, what they have done is they picked all these services and they are now giving us as a, service user, we can use those services and pay them a consumption price. So they have different pricing models. Either you can go for a fixed price model or a consumption price model. So if you're going for a consumption, depending on your usage, you are gonna pay to these providers. So they have their set of hardwares or the data centers which you as a consumer is going to use and pay to them. So that is what the cloud computing is. Now, the cloud computing is, again, we have divided into three types. Public cloud. Public cloud is nothing but uh, what we said, Azure, uh, Google Cloud, and AWS. So what is the benefit of public cloud? Benefit of public cloud is it's easy to use. You can directly go. It's cost effective. You will get global scale. You will get speed. You will get productivity. You will get performance, security, all this built in. But the problem with the public cloud is, so your data is going to sit in someone else server. So which few of the organizations or few of the entities are not comfortable with. So entities like government, entities like government banks, or the banks on which the country's economy relies on. Maybe the China's policy, they are not comfortable with, I mean, residing their data in some other country. Okay, so that is where the private cloud comes to the picture. In private cloud, what they say is, now you own your systems. So you can create own data centers and you are going to manage your data center as well. And the benefit of private cloud is you have complete control of it. And what is the demerits? The demerits should be like, you can think like, it's a huge upfront cost. So you have to build your own data center at fast itself. So you need to provide all kind of infrastructure before your application developers can build something. But in public cloud, so there are cost effective solutions. You don't have to own anything. So that's what benefit you the public cloud provide. Another point in terms of, if you'll think, if you have legacy applications, and those legacy applications might not be, I mean, there might not be the service which public cloud provides, your legacy application can fit into. So that is where you will also have to go through the private cloud. Okay, and then comes the hybrid cloud. So why this hybrid cloud actually originates? So consider, I'll give you a scenario where, let's say I am building a mobile app. My mobile app needs an authenticated users before it access my data inside my application. Now I have few users who are still in my private cloud or in my data center, and I have few users who are migrated to public cloud providers, something like Azure AD. So I have users across Azure AD, and I have users in my own Active Directory as well. Now, I need a solution where I can connect to both these systems and get my user authenticated and then access my data. That is where the hybrid cloud comes in the picture. Hybrid cloud gives you services or enables you connecting to both the worlds, your cloud as well as on your on-premise or your private cloud, what do you call it as, or your on-premise model and a public cloud model. All right, so these are different cloud types. So we will be focusing on the public cloud. Now, so now we understand the basics of few terminologies around cloud. So what are the different type of cloud services? So any cloud type you see, so these can be deployed as part of these three types of services. So IaaS stands for infrastructure as a service, PaaS stands for platform as a service, SaaS stands for software as a service. So how this actually relates to? So let's look at the next picture. So if you look at this picture, so on the very left side, you see the on-premise model, where let's say my objective is to build an application. This is what my objective. So for building an application, what I need these set of layers: networking, storage, some kind of storage, then servers, virtualization, operating system, the moment operating system, it's licensing. So all these things comes into the picture. Then let's say I decided on top of Windows, I want to build, I mean, I want to pick .NET framework, right? So I need to bring in .NET runtime, which is CLR. It's all these dependencies related to .NET which needed to run. Or if I am decided Java, then I need to bring in Java runtime and all these things. Then once these things are configured, then the next thing is data. So first, I mean, creating, storing the data or accessing the data, I need SQL Server or all these data providers what we have. Then once I have all these things ready, finally, I can build my application. So in on-premise world, it's the owners or the application owner responsibility to manage all these things. starting from operating system licensing, patching, installing your necessary frameworks or necessary softwares. It's the application owner's responsibility. With these three service models, what it says is you as an application owner in infrastructure as a service model only own these things. In infrastructure as a service, you as an application owner have to manage all these modules. And the public cloud provider, be it AWS, be it Azure, or be it Google, or be it IBM, whoever it is, they manage all other things, starting from virtualization, server, storage, networkings. So what is an example of infrastructure as a service? So you can relate it to a virtual machine. So in a virtual machine, so you get a machine, so you don't have to worry about where that from which part of the physical server they are giving you that part of virtual machine. So you just get a virtual machine, which is a box, and uh, your job is to install operating system, manage its licenses, install your runtime, install your data, and finally build your application. So that is an example of infrastructure as a service. Then coming to the platform as a service or the PaaS offering. In PaaS offering, what it says is you as an application owner has, you have to manage only applications and data. All other part of it, the provider manages. So example of platform as a service would be the app service, what we're going to talk about today. And there will be a lot of other examples like your table storage, SQL Server, what Azure provides, then your function app. They are all examples of platform as a service. So you don't have to worry about how internally Azure manages those services. Let's say you are creating a function app. So in function app, you have to only worry about your application and your data. So how internally Azure is scaling it, that's not your headache. So you get an SLA as long as that SLA is matching. So that is what the server provider promises to you. So within, let's say, so they promises you to like 99 point, I think 11 nines percentage of uptime with this much of response time, let's say 2 millisecond or whatever they promise. So you get that. So the moment you don't get, you go to the, you raise a ticket and you go to the provider, and provider has to solve that issue. So that's the contract what you are with the with the provider itself. So that is platform as a service. In a software as a service, everything the provider manages. In our case, in Azure, it's Microsoft. So the example of the software as a service will be O365. So if you look at Office 365, you get certain applications. Let's consider only SharePoint. So you get SharePoint. Now, how internally where SharePoint is storing data, how SharePoint is creating the optimization on top of it, and how they are bringing in application enhancement, we don't have to worry about. We as an user, we just have to use it as, we just have to use it as it is. So that is an example of software as a service. And if you look at Gmail, Gmail is nothing but that is also an example of software as a service. So we get a software, we are just using it. We don't have to worry about how Gmail is storing its data and how our email is coming. So we don't have to worry about. We get a software, we just use it. So that's basically software as a service. So any cloud provider you see, so they all deploy their format. Say what is a serverless is. So in all these formats, whenever there is a lot of load in your servers, right? So it's as an application developer that is not related to software as a service, but on these two services. As an application owner, you have to write certain rules, like whether you want Azure to add more servers to your application, how do you want to scale your application when there is a load. In serverless architecture, what they say is you don't have to worry about the scaling part of it. So Azure will take care of that as well. And they also provided a consumption metrics. What that consumption metrics is? So in all these deployment models, you will be charged depending on some predefined pricing plan. So you need to choose like this pricing plan I'm going to be part of. So depending on that pricing plan, you are going to charge. But in a serverless deployment model, you will be charged only depending on what you are consuming. So depending on your consumption, you will get charged. So these are the deployment models what you will see in any cloud service providers. All right, so now let's go move to our fast service. So the first service is Azure App Service. So this basically falls into, I have already said, this is inside the platform as a service deployment model. While explaining the cloud computing, what we said, cloud computing is nothing but it's some provider with Microsoft or Amazon. They are providing computing services, something like hosting services, storage services, databases services, networking, software, security, analytics, intelligence. These services they provide, and they charge depending on your, whatever pricing model you are in. So app service is a service which basically comes into, what problems it solves? It solves basically the how do you host your applications. So let's say you are building a web application or web API. So this basically gives you platform where you can basically host it. So when the moment the hosting comes into the picture, there are a lot of other things also comes in. Like how do I scale it? How do I make it secure? When I say secure, how do how do I make it as a HTTPS or SSL compliance? Then the next thing comes into the picture is how do I scale it? When there is a sudden load, how do I scale? Whether do I have a manual scale or auto scale option? Can I add custom domain to it? Can I add certificates to it? All these things comes into the picture. So app service actually gives you solution to all these problems. We'll talk about exactly what all different services or what are different problems it solves. So if I put it all together, so it's basically give you set of compute resources that is needed, which is enough to run any web application or a web API. So whatever you want to host it, it's basically give you that compute resources. So app service, I can divide it into two parts. One is basically an app service plan, and inside an app service plan, you can host multiple app services or websites. So in an app service, there is two things, as I said, app service plan and a websites. So whenever you are creating an app service plan, there is certain mandatory things. First thing is region. So where you want to host your app services and what will be the data center for your app service. Then how many instances in how many VM instances you want to host your app service. So depending on your production load, you can choose if it is a single instance or it's a multiple instance. Then you also have an option to choose what type of VMs you want, whether you want a small VM, medium VM, or a large VM. And how you will basically get all these things, like what is the how many number of VM instance, what will be the size of VM instance, all is aligned to a pricing tier. So depending on what pricing tier you are choosing, you will basically be given more powerful VMs. Okay, so if I put it in a holistic view, so if you look at, it's basically been deployed app service plan into three ways. One is shared compute, one is dedicated compute, and another one is isolated. What is a shared compute? So in a shared compute, what Azure says is your the same VM is going to be shared with multiple customers. So let's say I have a VM1 and your app service or your website is getting hosted in there. So that may be shared with another customer. So that's kind of cheap option for you, and you also get a free plan for in shared compute as well. Then in a dedicated compute, so you have a dedicated VM instance which is running just for your web app. So that is a dedicated compute. So in dedicated compute, you are not sharing your computing power with or your VM's computing power with any other customers. But if you want, now you have isolated your computing section, but networks are still be shared across, across customers of Azure. right? Maybe your organization or some other organizations are using, they might be still sharing the same network to reach to your server. So if you want a network isolation as well, so you can go for a isolated approach. So this basically gave you a network isolation as well. Okay, so these are the three models. The pricing plans will differ from what you are choosing is a shared, is a dedicated, or is a isolated one. So from my experience, what we have seen is depending on the complexity or the sensitiveness of your applications, 95% of your applications will fall inside dedicated compute. Some of the more sensitive applications like banking, blockchain applications, or more secure applications, there you may need an isolated tier. That's basically app service plans. Now what we'll do is let's go to Azure portal and we'll create a app service. And we'll create an app service plan. Then we'll create a web app and associate that web app with app service plan. Okay, so let's go to the portal. I'm hoping like everybody is aware of the portal. So for reaching to the portal, you just need to go to portal.azure.com and log in with your credentials. So you will land up in homepage. Your homepage may look a little different, but it will be kind of similar to this. Okay, so I'll not be spending more time on explaining what is what in this screen. So we'll straightly go ahead to creating our fast resource. For creating a resource, you do get a global search box here. You can directly search from here and you will be able to create a resource. Or you get an option right in here, which says create a resource. From here also you can create. And I have also pinned certain resources or resource types here. So you can see there is a resource type called app service. I can also go inside here and I do have an option to create a app service right from here as well. Okay, so these are the different ways you can create any resources, but let's use this one. So in going forward, we will be creating using the left bar. What we wanted to create, I said there is two aspects of a app service. One is app service plan, and then finally the app service or the website. So I want to create first a app service plan or the hosting plan. So let's create this service. Okay, the first thing what it is looking for, it's a premium resource. It's not a free resource. So you need an active subscription to create a app service plan. So subscription has already been populated for me. So this is basically this is exactly what Amol said. Like it's basically a logical container, or you can call it as a folder where related services can put together. So I would say if you just trying out few things and if you are just starting out in Azure, create a resource group and create all your resources inside that. And once your demo is done or your training is done, just delete that resource group. That way you will not get charged some extra things which we are not using. If you don't put it in the right resource group, that may still acquire some cost. Let's create a new resource group for our training. So I'll call this as, let's say, AZ learning. So now next thing what is needed is, so these two things you would see like any resource you create in Azure, you need to provide a subscription and you need to provide some resource group. Okay, next it's specific to the app service plan what we're creating. So it's asking what is the name of your plan. So I'll just give it, let's say, AZ app service. So you can give it any name. Then finally it is asking like this plan, whether you are going for, this is going to be run in Linux or an Windows environment. So I'll just choose Windows. Then which region this is going to be deployed in. So I'll go ahead with default. So you can see these are the different regions that is available. Okay, next the final thing is which talks about the SKU and size. This is what the pricing tier, which will add more features to your app service plan or your hosting plan. So let's go and figure out what is there. So if I click on change size, you will see now there is three set of things available. One is dev test, one is production, and one is isolated. So in dev test, you will see there is a shared infrastructure. And if I go to, you can see this is still a D1 is also shared infrastructure. And if I go to production, these are all dedicated instances. what we talked about, say a dedicated and isolated. So in production, you see these are all dedicated instances. And in isolated, it's something where you will get the network isolation. Okay, so now let's go to dev test, and you will see like the moment I click on different pricing tiers, this is the F1, which is actually the free version. You don't get any of the features associated, I mean, what App Service provides with the free pricing tier. And you only get 60 minutes per day compute. And if I go to the next set of, next section, you can see you have an option to add custom domains. So what is a custom domain? Basically, it's basically your brand name. So you can something like google.com, microsoft.com. It's your brand name you can add. Now let's go to a more advanced one where we will see most of the features what App Service provides. If I go to production and let's just pick, I think this one would do. Okay, so if you look at here, so these are the features what App Service provides. The first thing is custom domain and SSL. So custom domain we already talked about. SSL basically it's the HTTPS. If you want to make it a secure connection without being hacked intermittently, that is where you can use the SSL. You can enable SSL on your website, which will make it as HTTPS instead of HTTP. Okay, we'll talk about more on SSL on the SSL section itself. Then the next thing, auto scale. So what is auto scale is, so depending on pricing tier, Azure provides two kind of scaling options. One is auto scale, one is manual scale. So what is actually auto scale? We are talking about load, right? So let's open up a notepad. Okay, so consider this is my web app, and this is basically a web application which streams cricket match, something like Hotstar in India, what we have, right? So, or it is a web application which streams a football match. So as long as there is no match, I can expect like, let's say 10,000 customer per day. And the moment the day when, if there is a final match, right? So let's say on any day, if there is a final match, so I can expect like that 10,000 can becomes 1 lakh, my number of customers. So I, as an application owner, so you would have seen some instances where some instances like their servers broke down. Now with sudden spike in the number of customers, now the web app is not able to solve the requests, right? So that is where the manual scale and auto scales are coming to the picture. What manual scale says is, let's say I know on 22nd of, let's say April, that is the final match. I'll go to Azure and I will say like on 22nd April, add 5 instances to my web app. I know on 22 April there is a final match. That's why I can add 5 instances. But what if I don't know when this spike is gonna come in? Okay, so that is where the auto scales are helpful. And another demerits of this manual scale is, so let's say if even if this number of customers are not coming due to any reason, let's say there is another match going on, another interesting match going on, and people did not come to this site, you are still gonna have to pay for 5 instances what you have opted for. In auto scale, what we are saying, depending on certain metrics. So we'll talk in detail in when we go to the auto scaling section. So the metrics can be number of requests, metrics can be CPU usage, metrics can be your database server details, or if you are your web application is writing some kind of storage, their metrics also you can basically relate. So depending on a metrics, you can write certain rules. So we'll see what rules you can write. And if the rule satisfies, then we are saying add a server or add a instance or remove an instance. That is how, if you are enabling auto scaling, you would be only paying for the server which is actually needed for your application. So that is where the auto scaling are important. Okay, so what it says basically with this pricing tier, you will get up to 10 instances. So you can auto scale up to 10 instances for your application. There is a condition as well, subject to availability, but you will, I mean, what we have seen is it is able to add it, and up to 5 what we have used, and it works well. Next feature what it provides is staging slots. What is actually a staging slot? So consider a scenario like this. Let's say you are deploying, right? You are deploying an application. For deploying, you might have to bring your application for, let's say, 10 minutes or 20 minutes. You have to bring down your application. So you have to send that notification to your user that for this time to this time, my application is gonna be down. Okay, but that is not true for, I mean, that is not an um, luxury that all web application can afford. So if you have a public facing web application, you cannot afford that 10 minutes of downtime as well, depending on your criticality of your applications. So in that, the staging slots are important. So what staging slot says, so you create configuration for multiple staging environments. Let's say I have a staging slots for production, and I have a staging slots for, let's say, testing environment. So my testing is done. So once testing is done, I have an option to swap my configurations between the testing environment and the production environment. And this has been taken care so nicely that you will not see a single second of downtime as well. So there is a swap functions which you can do to avoid the downtime. That is where the deployment slots are important, or the staging slots are important. So with this pricing tier, you will get 5 staging slots. So you can create a dev staging slot, test, something like that, or a production staging slot.
Just a quick info, guys. If you want to make a career in cloud computing, then Intellipaat provides an advanced certification on cloud and DevOps by IIT Madras. This course is taught by industry experts and IIT Madras faculty. This course is designed to upskill and land your dream job.